Welcome to Risho Koseikai International of North America. Following is a reading of the book Guide to the Threefold Lotus Sutra by Nikkyo Niwano, founder of Risho Koseikai. Part 2. The Lotus Sutra of the Wondrous Dharma. Chapter 25. The Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway. The main subject of this chapter is Shakyamuni's explanation to the Bodhisattva inexhaustible mind of why the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway has such a name. It is easy in reading the chapter to think of the Bodhisattva Regarders of the Sound of the World as Universal Gateway as an object upon whose power, quite outside and apart from the individual, is it possible to rely for liberation. It is of highest importance, however, to see that this is not so, but that in fact he is a symbol of knowledge of the truth. Now, exactly speaking, this knowledge of the truth means realization of the middle truth that visible forms are neither emptiness nor the temporary, but a commingling of the two. Applied to the human condition, this means free and liberating knowledge that makes it possible for the person who has it to fit exactly into any situation, while at the same time preserving his or her identity and distinction. The Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway was possessor of such knowledge of the truth. He was also a possessor of vast compassion that made him ready to accept the sufferings of others in their stead. Knowing the truth, thinking on the truth, and acting in accord with the truth, this course, no other, is the true way to be liberated. Further, to liberate others, we must, out of a spirit of compassion, be self-sacrificing, for thus we may lead them into the path of truth. This is what is really taught in this chapter, in the detailed account of deliverance from 7 perils, by holding in mind the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway. People in olden times had difficulty in grasping so abstract an idea, and this is why the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway is presented in the Lotus Sutra as a beautiful, gentle being endowed with surpassing powers of perception, such that he observes the sounds of the world, knows every move, sees what everyone desires, and so in compassion appears in what are described as 33 guises to rescue people from their everyday pain. Holding such a being in mind brought liberation as the mind responded to the truth. We today ought to think on the superb character of the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway, and try to make ourselves like him. To emulate the Bodhisattva passionately will see us through whatever troubles come, and will lead us to lend a helping hand whenever we see others in trouble. This is really the main lesson of this chapter. A further point not to be overlooked is the way in which the Bodhisattva inexhaustible mind is so moved by the great virtue and power of the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway that he offers up his necklace. Regarder of the Sounds, in accepting it, at once divides it, giving half to Shakyamuni, the world-honored one, and half to the stupa of the Buddha abundant treasures. What this means is that the great virtue and power of the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds is due equally to the truth of the Buddha nature, which the stupa represents, and to Shakyamuni, the one who explains that truth. We may here see quite plainly that it is a great mistake to think we will be liberated merely by praying to the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds as Universal Gateway. End of Part 2, the Lotus Sutra of the Wondrous Dharma, Chapter 25, the Bodhisattva Regarder of the Sounds of the World as Universal Gateway. Arkina offers classes on Buddhism, information on meditation, holds online gatherings, and practices chanting. Please visit our website at www.arkina.org for information on upcoming events.